Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name's Kaylee and these are my books. Today's video is one that I actually didn't plan on doing this month, but then with all the hype that I've been hearing about these two specific books, I had to last minute include a vlog where I read these two books purely for selfish reasons because I just wanted to have an excuse to read these books. So in this vlog, I will be reading Fourth Wing and Fireborn, and these are two fantasy novels that you've probably already heard of because they are so hyped right now. Fourth Wing is an adult fantasy romance book, and Fireborn is a young adult fantasy book with some romance in it, but it's definitely, I don't think, a fantasy romance. I think it's more of a strong fantasy plot where this one is equal fantasy and romance. That's my understanding at this moment, at least. We'll see if that is true. Both of these do have some similarities. They both involve dragon and dragon riders and school settings, and all three of those things sound wonderful to me. I'm so excited. I think I'm definitely more excited for Fourth Wing. Also, this copy, the standard edition, is beautiful, but Fireborn is one that I had no intention of reading until I saw Cassidy and Mel read it. Cassidy from Covers with Cassidy and Mel from Mel Lenore Reads. And I also know my friend Maria from Maria Might Read That loves this book too. So there's a lot of my friends that do really enjoy it, but it took all three of them enjoying it for me to want to read it. I don't know why I was resistant a little bit to this book. I just don't pick up as much YA fantasy nowadays, but I'm really excited to read this because there are still a lot of YA fantasies that I love. They just don't excite me as much anymore, which I don't know why, because I have still been enjoying some recently, so they should excite me, but it just takes more of a push for me to actually pick one up. But consider me pushed, because here I am reading it. So I'm very excited to read both these books. I'm just gonna cut to me reading them now. I'm doing a quick check-in because it's 2 in the morning right now. I was just meant to read one chapter before bed. One chapter. I was gonna go to bed early because I got like 3 hours of sleep last night. I'm tired tonight. I'm on page 178 now. What the This book. I'm literally sitting here reading Fourth Wing. This is literally what I'm doing while I'm reading, like silent screaming. I keep disturbing Teddy trying to sleep next to me, but like, oh my god, this book. I'm sorry, it's too late and I'm too tired to give you a synopsis of it. I'll give you a synopsis next time I check in if it's like tomorrow during the day. Some reveals have been happening and like some of the trials, and like a big freaking thing just happened and I did not see it coming and it was so badass. The banter in this book is top tier. The banter between multiple sets of characters, multiple sets. It's not just between two people. The banter with everyone is amazing. And like, what has just happened? I just finished chapter 15. What the heck? I'm freaking out. I am freaking the freak out. Like, I'm staying up all night tonight, I think. I'm messing up my sleep schedule, and this book is worth it. This book is worth it. I cannot believe how much I'm enjoying what I'm reading, and I wish it wasn't so freaking late, but here I am. I have like, I'm not even halfway of the book, I guess, so maybe I'll check in later tonight, / more accurately, later this morning, and let you know how it's going. But like, this freaking book is so good. I promise to try to be more eloquent in the next check-in, but it's amazing. Read it. You have to read it. Okay, I'm gonna continue to read now. Bye. Hello, it is next morning. If my face seems a bit more red than usual, a bit more puffy than usual, it's because I just finished crying for like 20 minutes. I was reading a little bit more Fourth Wing this morning. I'm about halfway through right now. I ended up going to sleep at like 3:30 in the morning last night. I just could not keep my eyes open any longer, so I made it to like page 200 last night, and then this morning I got to page like 250, and then I read a chapter where something big happens where I was like already feeling like crying from many emotions. It's not even that it was sad, just like emotional in terms of like, I don't know, I just feel like this book, Fourth Wing, is making me feel every emotion possible. And so it's just like emotion overload. So it's making me want to cry. Even at like happy moments, I'm just like, oh God. But then I just did a watch party, like a movie watch party with my Patreon, and we watched The Adam Project. And the last freaking 20 minutes of the movie, I blame Fourth Wing. I was already emotionally compromised, okay? I blame Fourth Wing. But the last 20 minutes of the movie, I was just sobbing, just tears running down my face. And now my makeup is all weird. There's like streaks. You could see like streaks in my face. And now I'm gonna continue reading Fourth Wing. Like, I think I'm just crying a bunch today. It's so freaking good. I mean, I'm telling you all this because I need you guys to know how much this book is affecting me emotionally. And it's not that it's sad. Like, I don't want you to think I'm crying because it's sad. Like, this is not a sad book. If anything, it's like quite a happy book. And I'm crying. Happy moments get me the most. Like, wholesome moments get me the most. But this book really has it all. It has highs and lows in it. It's freaking awesome. So let me give you the synopsis since I'm more awake today. This is a book in a world where there's been a war between nations for hundreds and hundreds of years. The nation that our main character is from has dragons and dragon riders, but this is a very elite part of their military. And so in order to become a dragon rider, you have to go through this brutal academy where you're more likely to die in the academy than you are to survive it. It actually reminds me a lot of Naomi Novik's Deadly Education book series, where like they have to go to school, but the school is like deadly. However, this isn't like the building itself that's deadly, it's just the tasks that they had to do, and each other are deadly. Like, everyone's a little bit murdery, and then like the trials that they have to do always weed a bunch of people out. And this happens right at the beginning of the book, so I don't think it spoils anything. But like, even just to get into the academy, they have to walk on this narrow ledge across a giant crevice in the earth when it's super windy, and like 20% of people die when they're just trying to walk to the academy. So basically, it's a brutal, brutal world, and our main character is forced into this academy by her mother because her mother is the head general, really important person in the military. And so, of course, her mother is like, of course my daughter is going to be a dragon rider. She can't be anything other than a dragon rider. But our main character, Violet, also has a disability where her ligaments are really weak, and so when someone like punches her, it's much more likely for her bones to get hurt, for her bones to break, for her arm to be dislocated, stuff like that. And therefore, like, she's dealing with a lot more pain than other people are, and it's just harder for her to be in these fight situations, be in these physical situations that the school requires of her. So basically, she's entering into this school thinking that she is going to die in this school, but she's hoping to prove everyone wrong. And so you have to make it through this school in order to bond with a dragon and be a dragon rider. And the dragons are so cool. Like, the dragons are so cool. And like I said in my last check-in, the banter in this book is like top tier freaking banter. Which, side note, The Adam Project, which is a movie on Netflix, also had top tier banter. So I've just been having such a good experience with banter recently. And The Adam Project is similar, where in Fourth Wing, of course, there's banter between the romance, because this is a fantasy romance. There's banter between the two people that are going to be involved in the romance, but there's also just banter in like every friendship. There's banter in the political system. Like there's just so much wonderful banter, and you care about every character. It's not a situation where you only care about the two people in that are going to be in the relationship. You care about all of their friends too, and there's a fairly wide cast that you have, and you care about everyone. You love everyone. My one complaint, and this was more of a complaint at the beginning and not so much anymore because there's so much more going on that he isn't as prevalent of a character, but early on we get one character who is a villain right away, like a bully right away, and I found him incredibly one-dimensional and just there for the plot, really. And he didn't feel like a real person to me, or maybe he does feel like a real person because there are people out there that just like to cause pain for fun. But even though like there are people that exist like that, it's just not as interesting to me to read about a villain that doesn't have more complex motivations, that doesn't have more depth to them. And so that bully character is boring to me. But as things have gotten more and more complex, his role has gotten more and more diminished. And so while I do think he is a weaker part of the book for me, he is not a significant part of the book to where it's ruining my enjoyment or anything. Like, this is like top tier book so far. This, much like Serpent and the Wings of Night, is one of the best books I've ever read so far. I mean, I'm only 50% of the way through. I'm gonna stop talking now so I can keep reading it, because I just really want to keep reading it. But basically, if you can't already tell from how excited I am loving this book so much. Hello, it is the next morning, so it's Monday morning. I wanted to check in because I'm on page 362 of Fourth Wing, and it's still so freaking good. I need to tell you guys some context for what's going on today, because it will really make you appreciate how much I'm loving this book. If you know me, you know I love to sleep in. I usually sleep super late each morning, but today, Monday, is actually the start of a brand new job for me, which is really exciting and kind of scary, but it's normal work hours, right? So 9 to 5, meaning I can't sleep in until like 10 or 11 like I usually do. So I've had to shift my sleep schedule. But of course, last night it was really hard for me to fall asleep early because I'm used to staying up super late. And so basically already like waking up in time for the job to start this morning was gonna be rough no matter what. And yet I woke up an hour earlier than I had to because I wanted to be able to read more Fourth Wing before work. So if that doesn't tell you how much I'm loving the book, I don't know what else can. I am absolutely loving everything about this book. It's so exciting. The character relationships are so awesome, like both romantic and friendships. The banter, like so quick-witted and entertaining. The combination of power coming from both intelligence and physical power is incredible in this book. Like, I love when characters can show off their powers by just being super smart, and this book is doing that so well. But then there's also some like badass physical powers, including both magic and then just like battle prowess. And then the battles are awesome. The dragons are so cool, and like the bigger political world and what's being hinted so far is very intriguing, and I'm very curious to see where this book goes and how it's gonna do what I think it's gonna do. Because basically, like, our characters have a lot of growing to do before this plot gets bigger and bigger, because we're still in the academy. Like, I think this whole first book is just about them being at the academy. But of course, the bigger world outside of the school is being set up. And I'm so intrigued with how our characters are going to maneuver the bigger world and maneuver the politics in the bigger world. So in other words, this book is freaking awesome. Lots of badass jaw-dropping moments, lots of funny moments, lots of heartfelt moments, lots of moments where I just fall in love with these characters, and then tons of intrigue for the future. It's so hard to stop this book. I was reading it last night and I texted Lexi like, I'm gonna read a chapter before bed, and she was like, you better not, because you're not gonna stop. And yeah, I definitely read more than I definitely read more than one chapter, and then she texted me like an hour later being like, are you still reading? And I'm like, yes I am. But then she convinced me to stop with that text, so I didn't stay up super late reading. But this book is just so addicting. Like, when you start a chapter, you don't want to stop reading the book. Time just stops having any meaning when you're reading this book, because it feels like you've been reading for 5 minutes and you blink, it's been like 3 hours and you've read 100 pages. And you're like, what the heck has happened? So I'm loving my time with this book. I'll probably check in next when I finish it, because I only have like 140-ish pages left, which is sad. I don't want to finish it. I don't know if that's going to be today or not, though, because I do have a full day of work and I'm not used to that. So I probably will be really tired when the day is over, but I'll still read a bit, but I'll either finish it today or Tuesday. So I'll let you know when that happens. Hello, it is the next day. I have some updates to give you. I finished Fourth Wing and it was freaking incredible. It was so good. Like, so fucking good. I'm sorry for cursing, but it deserves it, because oh my god, it was so good. How can I even talk about this eloquently without just squealing? Because oh my gosh, I was hooked until the very end. When I finished it, I immediately felt so devastated. Not necessarily because anything sad happened, but devastated that I was done reading it. It's one of those books that really, I said this with Serpent, and I'm saying this with Fourth Wing too, because both of these books made me feel this way. I forgot who I was as a person because I was so immersed. Sorry, Teddy has decided to drink some water. Let's just wait for him to finish. But it's one of those books that is so immersive. No, he's not done. He's still drinking. It's one of those books that's just so immersive and the characters feel so real, and I cared so much about the plot and the characters that I like disassociated from my own body because it was just so freaking awesome. And so when you finish it, it's really like you're mourning the characters and mourning the book. I'm not saying anything to do with death in the book. I'm more just saying that you have finished the book and there's no other content for me to read about them until the next book gets released. So I'm like mourning being able to spend time with them. And I know this sounds so dramatic, but it's how I feel because this book just got me. It freaking got me. And the romance was incredible, but also like the magic was so good. There's so many badass moments where your jaw just drops and you're like, hell yeah, I'm rooting so hard for you. And just the characters, the friendship in this book is so good too. The political intrigue is awesome. And the twists and turns that the story takes, I did not see coming. Like, I'm obsessed with Fourth Wing. And I also started Fireborn. I'm like a third of the way through it and I'm not obsessed with it so far, which is scaring me so much. And so I'm not disliking it. To be clear, I am enjoying it, but I'm just not feeling the same way about it as I felt about Fourth Wing and Serpent. And I expected this one also to be like this new favorite, but I'm not fully in yet. I'm intrigued, but I'm not fully into the characters. I'm not fully into the story. So let me give you the premise of the book first. This is a world that used to be ruled by a very strict political class, and it was like you were born into your class. So if your parents were peasants, you were a peasant. If your parents were nobility, you were a nobility, and there was no class movement between. There was a revolution recently where instead of you being born into your class, you take a test, and that's how you determine your class. So suddenly people that were born into peasantry are able to become nobility and vice versa, all depending on a test that you take. And so with this new world, with these new politics in this new world, there is a new group of dragon riders, which is basically like this universe's military. And the dragon riders that we are following, the two different point of views that we are following, are Annie and Leo, and they are both teenagers. They're both going to school to become full dragon riders. And they come from very different backgrounds, but they both ended up at an orphanage due to the rebellion and due to the mass loss of life that happened when there was an overtaking from being born into your class to taking a test to become a class. And they've both tested into the highest class, hence them being dragon riders. But Lee comes from a background of nobility and Annie comes from a background of peasant. And so there's a lot of tension still because while the rebellion has happened, it doesn't mean that all of the tensions between classes have ceased. It just means there's a different order to it. So lots of political intrigue in this book so far. The book has a school setting with different trials happening because everyone's competing to become first rider right now, which is very exciting. And so I love the setting. And I love the plot. What I'm struggling a little bit with is the characters and the dragons. So first I have like a very small complaint, and this is not a full complaint, it's just like a little tiny annoyance, is that I really hate the names in this book so far. Like the names are like Duck, Power, Annie, Lee, and Annie and Lee are fine. They're just a bit boring to me. But like Duck and Power and like these other ridiculous names, there's a reason why they're named this way, but it still doesn't impact the fact that when they're fighting each other, it's like Duck versus Power. I'm like kind of rolling my eyes a little bit. I don't know. I just think it's kind of stupid. But I'm hoping once I get to know the characters a little bit more, 'cause again, I'm only a third of the way through, the names will just become part of their identities and I will be focusing less on the individual word and instead think of Duck as the character instead of Duck as the stupid name. Hopefully that makes sense. Characters and dragons. This is like one complaint, and it is quite a big disappointment for me so far, is that the dragons are like basically objects. They're just weapons. Like the dragons have no personality that we're really told about. These characters, even though they've bonded with their dragon, seem to never think about their dragons, seem to never like care about their dragons. Their dragons have no personalities. They're just like objects. Like you could replace dragon with a big gun and it would be the same sort of dynamic that these relationships have between human and dragon. And I just find that a bit boring and like so much potential to make the dragons interesting, but the dragons are just like objects so far. So I'm hoping that that develops more so, because the dragons pop up when we're in a battle and then they go away, and when they're away, they're never thought of. And not a single dragon has a personality in the battles. Like it's fully the person controlling the dragon, no like individual thought from the dragon itself. Like I don't even know if the dragons have thoughts. I have no idea about their intelligence levels. I know nothing about these dragons, pretty much is what I'm saying. And it's just kind of weird because they have popped up quite a bit. And so for the characters to be never thinking about their dragons, I'm like, even if the dragon was just an animal, like you would think if you spend that much time with an animal, you would like love the animal, but maybe they do, but it's not on page, that love at all. So that's my biggest complaint. And it is fairly a major complaint, even though it's just one, just because, like I said, dragons have come up so often. So every time there's a scene with a dragon, I just think it's kind of boring. It's not all negative so far, though. I am really enjoying the politics. I'm really enjoying the setting. I'm really enjoying where I think our characters are going to end up based off of their beginnings. I think it's going to have a ton of super satisfying character development. I think it's super well written, and I think it's a really complex book. And I mean that in a good way. Like this is a smart book. It's doing a lot of smart things. I just wish it was a bit more exciting. And again, there's exciting things happening. It's just because of how they're treated. All the exciting things revolve around the dragons, but for me to know nothing and not care about the dragons means they're not hitting in the way that they're supposed to be hitting. So I'm really hoping when I check in, when I'm like 2/3 of the way through this, I take it all back and the dragons have been developed and that I start loving it. If I had to rate it right now, I would give it like a 4-star. So to be clear, I'm really enjoying so much of it. Okay, I'm really, really enjoying so much of it. But I just am having this like disappointed tone because I thought already it would feel like a new favorite book, and it feels like a 4-star, like a book I really, really like, but not gonna make any lists at the end of the year. We'll see if that changes. I really hope it does because I think it would be so freaking fun to get 2 new favorites out of this video. But I am excited to keep reading this. So that should tell you something too, that even with all my complaining, still feeling like 4 stars, I still would love to be able to binge the whole book today. We'll see if it's able to happen. But I do have to work today. So I'm going to be reading this on my lunch break and then after work. And I'll check in and let you know if I end up being able to make it to 2/3 of the way through today. Hello, it is the next morning. It's actually Friday morning to date the vlog. I was supposed to post this vlog yesterday, which freaking sucks. This first week of work at my new job has been kicking my butt a little bit. I've been reading way less. Not because I don't have time to, like, it's a work from home job. There's no commute. Like, I could have more time, but the issue is each time I finish my workday, I've just pretty much immediately gone to lay in bed and be done. I definitely need to find a better balance between resting and doing other hobbies after I'm done working, because I'm done at 5. It's not, I'm just being a baby about it. It's just been an adjustment. I'm gonna get used to it, but this week has been a little bit rough in terms of like my tiredness levels. But everything's been going great at the new job. I'm really excited about it, but I'm also very happy that today is Friday. Yesterday I did make it 2/3 of the way through. I almost said Fourth Wing. That is earlier. No, through Fireborn. And I am liking it. Maybe more, I don't know. I'm definitely liking it. I feel like I was so whiny in my last clip. But I'm liking it a lot, okay? I'm liking it a lot. My issues with the names has been resolved. Like, the names now feel like they're real names of these people. Like, they have been cemented to represent an identity for me instead of just representing a dumb word. So the names are done, but the dragon issue is still persisting for me a little bit. I just think the dragons are very much like weapons in this book, and that's not objectively a bad thing. It's just not what I was wanting from the dragons. I wanted a little bit more personality from the dragons. I wanted to see more of the relationship between our humans and their dragons and like the care that they might have for each other. But so far, we still haven't really gotten much of that. So those issues are still persisting. And the dragon issue is affecting my care about the combat in this book because all the combat revolves around dragons and I find the dragons a bit boring. I don't think the combat is hitting the same way it's supposed to be hitting for me. I just don't care as much about it. But there is so much in this book that is amazing. So those are still the issues I'm having with it. But in terms of what I'm loving about this book, I think the characters' complexity is so cool, and what each of our characters struggle with is so how do I say this? The character struggles feel so real, and especially Annie's struggling with confidence, and if she wants to lead, if she wants to follow, what she's more comfortable with, but what is better for her growth as a person. And maybe being comfortable isn't the same thing as having a good decision for yourself. I just think that is so interesting, and it's really hitting for me because I have had similar discussions with myself many times in terms of what's the correct option. Sometimes the scary option is the correct option. I mean, I just started a new job and this is a very scary change for me, and the new job involves me leading some people, and it's just, of course, it's at a way lesser extent because I'm not in the middle of a war-stricken country, but Annie's going through it way worse than I am. But I'm just relating to a lot of Annie's struggles, and I am rooting for Annie so hard. I freaking love Annie. Lee took a little bit longer for me to love. I didn't dislike him at any point, but I feel like I was a bit indifferent at the beginning. But at this point, I freaking love Lee. He was a bit of a slow burn for me to love his character, but we definitely got there. I think Lee is really interesting. And his struggles are so cool, and it's just the thing about this book is there's so much nuance. Neither side is perfect. Both sides have issues, and you're basically having to go with the side that has the least amount of evilness in it, which isn't a good option, and it makes it hard to know if you've made the right decision. And it's like a case of this book where each new group of people saying, okay, but if we had the dragons, if we had the power, we would do it correctly. And then realizing, no, you're still human. You're not going to do it correctly. There is no perfect way. There is no way in these hard moments to make a decision that is beneficial for everyone. You're always going to be pissing people off in moments of leadership, especially in countries where things are going wrong right now. And I think the nuance in this book is really special and so complex, especially for a YA. These themes are so mature, and the way that the themes are dealt with is in such an intelligent way. This book feels so intellectual. I feel like I could assign this book in a classroom and we would have so many good discussions about it, and it would be such a good book to make people think. And this is a YA fantasy book, and not that YA can't do that, but I feel like more often than not, I think about complexity and nuance in the adult genre, but this is a great example of why I still need to revisit YA from time to time, because this YA book is killing it. It is so freaking good. But again, I'm still just having those little issues. If I had to rate it right now, I feel like maybe it's a 4.5 for me. It still isn't feeling 5 stars, which sucks, but it's a strong book. I'm really having a great time with it, and I'm so excited to see how it ends. It's the morning before my workday starts right now, so during my lunch break, 'cause I get an hour lunch and I have about an hour of listening time left, so I should be able to finish it. I just don't know if I'll have time to check in then or not, but if I don't have time to check in, I'll just check in after I'm done with work, because I'm definitely finishing this book today no matter what. Alright, wish me good luck in my workday, and I need to guzzle down some coffee because I know I seem energetic, but I would love to just go take a nap right now. And I just woke up, so see you in a bit. Hello, you're at the end of the video because I did end up finishing Fireborn, and I am gonna rate it 4.5 stars. So it's not a 5-star for me, it's not a new favorite for me, but 4.5 stars, to be clear, is awesome. I loved this book. It just didn't hit that 5-star threshold, but it almost did at 4.5. The end was so wonderful in how bittersweet it was, and what a badass move we had at the end. I'm not going to say anything more than that, but I loved the political badass moves that were happening in here. And I just love, once again, how nuanced everything is, how complex each individual character is, how everyone has their own internal motivations, everyone has a different vision for the future, and we're all working together but we're also kind of all not working together, and it's just so complex and wonderful, so political. I love it. But my complaints with the dragon and the combat scenes still continue. I'm really hoping it changes. I don't know if it's ever going to, but I have already picked up book 2. That's not part of this vlog, but I am already listening to book 2, so that kind of tells you that I immediately wanted to pick up the next one, and I'm probably going to binge this whole trilogy for the rest of the month. Even with my complaints, I love this book. I highly recommend this book to all fantasy lovers. It doesn't matter if you read YA or adult. I think you can have enjoyment from this book no matter what kind of reader you are. And with that, we have finished the video, and this video was very successful because I have a 4.5 star and a 5 star, and in this 5 star I found a new all-time favorite book. This is definitely making my top 10 books of the year list. And this is like making my top 10 books I've ever read list. I just had such a good time with this book. So with the end of this video, I want you to let me know if you have any other recommendations that are kind of similar to this, because I need all the dragons in my life, all the dragon riders in my life, all the school settings in my life. So if you have any fantasy or fantasy romance recommendations that include any of these 3 things, let me know down in the comments. And let me know down in the comments if you've read either of these, what your thoughts are. And if you enjoyed this video, please like the video and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you next time. Bye!